everybody. Welcome back to the Smorgasboard podcast. As always, it's me, Parker, and Josh, and Julia, and Chris. And today, we're talking about space. Josh, tell me about space.
Sure. SpaceX had a big milestone last week. They're currently trying to develop their completely reusable rocket called Starship, and they're very, very early in the development process of it, but they did their second full test flight of the upper stage. So we can go ahead and pull that up here and watch through it, and I'll explain kind of what's going on. It's really interesting. So give me a second to...
Yes, please, Josh and I,
There
the
we go.
science guy.
Oh, yes. Please give me knowledge.
So here we go. I'm gonna try not to
Gee,
blow your
Josh.
ears out. So right here we have two of their prototype Starship upper stages right now. And you can see the one is all fueled up and is venting, and there it goes, starting to take off. Now, for those watching, this is a development test flight, so, because it doesn't end the best. But this
So
thing,
there's nobody
Spoiler
on
alert.
that thing.
there
It's
is
just-
no one on this. Yes,
Okay.
this is completely automated.
It
So
blows my mind that this is just the upper stage as well.
exactly.
So when you say it's the upper stage, that means what exactly?
So the way traditional rockets work is you stage them. They take off when the engines run out of fuel on the one stage. They ditch it, and then the second stage continues, and they can have 2, 3, 4 stages on rockets. This is going to be a 2-stage rocket. So this is just the part that's going to space. This normally is going to sit on top of essentially an oversized Falcon 9 booster, which is what they currently have in operation for actually putting payloads into space.
Okay, so this is gonna be the part of the rocket that actually breaks the atmosphere and gets out into space, or
Correct. This will be
Okay.
going into orbit. This is kind of like the orbiter on the space shuttle. This is what's going to be going to space, delivering payloads, and coming back.
okay.
So,
So what's their? I'm gonna ask a lot of
no,
questions.
by all
but-
means, that's what we need.
So what's their goal per se with this? Since I assume you have the multi stages so that you can actually break through the atmosphere and get it up to where it needs to be. Is the goal for this rocket launch not so much to get it out of orbit, or what's the upper bound that they're going for with this test?
So this test is going to, I believe it was 10 kilometers. And what makes this rocket unique is it's how it comes back to land. So essentially the space shuttle, would go to space, come back, re-enter, and then would glide like a plane and land like a plane on a runway. Well, this doesn't have any landing gear, no wheels, and doesn't fly like a plane. So what it's going to do is it's going to go to space, deliver its payload, and when it comes in, it's going to re-enter similar to the space shuttle, but then once it gets out of the upper atmosphere, it's going to fall essentially straight down, skydiver style. And that's what those wings are. They're not really wings, but that's how they're going to steer it as it falls. And then it's going to go from horizontal to vertical in just a couple of seconds, and then land straight up like a Falcon 9 booster.
Oh wow.
And they haven't officially got it to land properly yet. It lands hard though.
Yeah. Starship 8 was probably, or has been the closest.
Yes. Yeah, their last attempt, which was their first attempt at it, did better than this one. So you got a quick shot there of the 3 engines, and those engines are very, very powerful. They each have about 500,000 pounds of thrust each. And with this test, they don't want it to break the sound barrier because they don't know if it can handle that force yet. So they have to shut down the engines as it gets closer and closer to its highest point. So it
So is
just
that
turned one
normal?
off. Yes, that is normal.
Okay.
So it turned one engine off there, so it's flying on 2.
Okay, because
Yeah.
it kind of looks like all of that I don't know, that smoke or whatever that was coming off of it. That looked somewhat concerning. but that was supposed to happen.
That was supposed to happen. You'll see at different parts here, they will start venting some of its fuel and oxidizer because it doesn't want to have too much coming back. and you'll see here in a little bit.
And
But
when you
it's-
say venting, can you talk to me like I'm a second grader?
Yeah, so right here's a good spot. So you can see white rings on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's one, I know you can't see my cursor, but there's one, a lower one, and then an upper one. So that, when you see those, you can kind of see that's about where the fuel is on it. Fuel and oxidizer. There's 2 tanks there. So the lower one, I believe, is the oxidizer. The upper one is liquid methane. It's fuel. So you can see that's where they are. So they don't fill it all the way up for this flight, but when it launches, it'll be completely full. So it's not going to need a full tank, so they put a little bit more than it's going to need, and once it gets up to the top, they start venting or just releasing into the atmosphere what they don't need anymore. So you'll see at several parts they vent. So I think that's what you're seeing there at the bottom. They're venting some of the liquid oxygen, I believe. That's what you're seeing at the end of it there. Of course, you're seeing the rocket exhaust too.
So this is it coming back down. This is it trying to land now.
No, this is still going up.
It's still going up.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll notice when it starts to come back down, it'll pretty much go horizontal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
So yeah, go ahead.
And I believe that white smoke, quote me if I'm wrong, Josh, it's just pretty much unignited liquid oxygen, right?
Correct.
So they just turn off the ignition, and then it just keeps flowing out. And then whenever they relight, so then as soon as they ignite, it'll turn straight back into what the other engine's doing.
Well, those are coming out of the tanks themselves, any excess that they don't need. So they're down to 1 engine, so it's essentially hovering now. It's not going up, it's just hovering there. But they're translating, because this is down off the coast of Texas, they're translating over the ocean some. And then they're going to kill the 1 engine here, the last engine, in just a second. But right now they're venting what fuel and oxidizer they don't need currently. Because they want it to be pretty light coming back.
So that's probably, I'm going to assume they want it to be light for multiple reasons. One, because I'm sure it's going to be a lot easier to land a much lighter rocket. But I would assume that a lot of this stuff is very flammable, and excess amounts of fuel hitting the ground if it does fail could be extra dangerous.
Absolutely. So there they killed the last engine, so then it translates to horizontal. So this is how it's going to re-enter. After it gets through the upper atmosphere, it's going to translate to that. And there you can see it's kind of nosediving, and it's coming back over to be on top of the landing pad, where it's going to try and land.
And it's not supposed to nosedive, is it?
No, it was supposed to, because that's how they steer it.
Oh,
so it was over the ocean, and now it's come back over, so it's essentially right above the landing pad, just several kilometers up.
And then the more horizontal it gets, you can see like those fins also moving to kind of steer it as well.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can see them like wiggling.
That's a nice shot.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you can see some of that liquid oxygen coming out of the back of the engines. And you'll see it go out even more here in a second. They have to chill those engines, so there it's increasing. They have to send liquid oxygen through the engines before they can reignite them. Otherwise, the turbopumps in them, with the shock of getting that cold liquid on them, would cause them to break. So they have to chill them, get them close to the same temperature they're going to experience here in just a little bit.
God, it's so funny just watching this, because it doesn't look like, like from watching the video, it just looks like, you don't get a good perspective for how massive that thing actually is, just free falling through the sky essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have
right
dimensions of
now
this?
I'm gonna pause it so you guys can see something. When it comes back, it has 3 engines. On the landing attempt, they light 2 of them. They need both of them to work to get a good landing. So as you can see here, the one lights, and it looks like it's got a good stream. The left engine does not.
Yeah.
So that was their problem here. So we'll let it play out here. I won't pause it anymore.
Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
A touchdown, baby.
Rocket go boom boom.
Yeah.
Now,
Play it again.
let's back that up a second. Replay. And boom.
Yeah, the first one was so much better.
Yes.
That's the stuff.
Now, if
So-
you'll notice, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just like, so what was it actually supposed to do? Obviously not blow up. Was it? I'm guessing it was just supposed to go back like
Vertical.
vertical.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Just
So
to go
that
completely, it'll go from like the full belly flop kind of motion. It'll go pretty vertical, but then it'll also overcorrect by a certain amount, and then come back to being straight vertical, and then land.
Okay.
Is what the idea and what it's supposed to do.
Okay.
You can on the first one you can actually see it a lot better because you can see both the engines, because both the engines did relight on this first one, I believe.
Yes.
And then it worked, but as they were descending like in the vertical stage, they lost the other one, or something happened to the other one, and so they picked up too much speed for a safe landing.
Yes. Yeah, I think they lost. They have their main tanks, fuel and oxidizer tanks, but then they have two smaller ones, specifically for relighting the engines in that horizontal position, and those are called header tanks. And one of the header tanks lost pressure and couldn't keep feeding the engine fuel, the methane, and it just started ingesting too much liquid oxygen and eating the engine out itself, and couldn't keep up. It wasn't producing thrust at that point; it was just eating itself. And yeah. But if you guys notice on the landing pad there, you notice they have another prototype right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was about to say, because like if you roll the video back to where we started before, like right before it took off, and the two are like right next to each other,
Yeah.
Yes.
and it's like, I mean, kudos to like SpaceX for having like the arrogance to be like, no, it'll take off no problem. You know, like they didn't worry at all that it would like explode right there, like when it was taking off, and potentially take out their other like prototype that's set up there. So, you know, good for them for having the swagger to do that. But then now go back to where it exploded on impact. It's still pretty close.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if that thing would have just been off the mark and just crashed right into the other prototype. Like,
Yeah.
Like-
it was 100% a swagger move from Elon to put the second one out there, to put SN10 out there, because prior to this they were having problems with the FCC,
FAA.
right? FAA about launching, and they had, you know, they've been postponing it for a while, and then so like as the FAA kept postponing it, Elon was like sending out tweets. He's like, "Don't worry, we got SN10 out there ready, FCC." It just kept like, he would have, if they would have kept postponing, he probably would have put a third out there. Like,
Yeah.
he just kept doing that, just be like, "Look, we're ready. We're just like, we're waiting on you."
I mean, like that kind of move is what's kind of, in my opinion, really kept Elon Musk at the forefront of everybody's minds. Like, he just does these things, and his Twitter account just like pops off every once in a while, and he just does these things to like really kind of keep the buzz going about him. Like, oh, Elon's so cool, he put 2 rockets out there just to like flip the bird to the FAA. Like, he could have lost both those rockets.
Exactly. That was a multi-million-dollar like bet.
Oh boy! Do you know how much the one that exploded? How much money that cost to make?
So we don't know the cost of them yet because this is development, but they're not cheap. I mean, relatively speaking, they're a cheap-ish rocket because it's made out of stainless steel. So it's not like super expensive carbon fiber or anything like that. But
Yeah,
that's still a lot of steel. Those aren't light. That's a lot of stainless
Right.
steel. They have 3 very expensive engines on them, let alone all the man hours into it. So I don't know what the price is, but they're not cheap.
Yeah, and he had 2 of them sitting out there,
Yes.
Yeah.
just kind of like, what happens, if it if it blows both of them up, people will still be talking about SpaceX. Like, Elon Musk operates on like the any press is good press.
Yes.
Hmm.
Like, it doesn't matter if his rockets are exploding or if he's putting out stupid stuff on Twitter. Like, people just eat it up.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I believe Josh can quote me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe the end goal for Starship is that they're going to cost around $2 million each, I believe, because factoring in their reusability once they get done. I believe that's what Elon has quoted saying he wants them to be around per launch is like $2 million.
Yeah.
Not the overall cost of the rocket, but each launch is like $2 million, which is like I think it was like 190% less than that of like a NASA space launch.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
So I can't remember the exact number, but I think that's on the high end. I think he wants it to be a lot less than that because their end goal is to get these. So essentially, they want this to be the 747 of space. They want this thing to fly multiple times in a day. It has the cargo space of a 747, and it has it can carry the same amount essentially to space that a 747 can fly around the Earth with. So they want this to be able to travel multiple times a day, not only to put stuff into space, but they also want to use these as a point-to-point travel here on Earth. So you can hop on it in New York and get to China, Beijing, China, in 25 minutes. They want to use them as like point-to-point travel here on Earth, as well as putting stuff into space, and then Mars and the Moon.
So
is Starship the one that they're trying to take to Mars too, right?
Yes.
So does that $2 million price tag per launch still apply to like if they're just trying to like go to the other side of the world? Like, is that what they're wanting the base amount of money to be in order to like actually launch one of these things?
Like I said, I don't know what the price is exactly, but I think the 1 or 2 million is on the high end because the only thing that it's going to cost SpaceX after they have this down is fuel, because you're picking up both parts of the rocket, you're reusing them both, so you've just got the cost of fuel.
Yeah, because both of the Falcon 9 or Falcon 9, right,
Mm-hmm.
and the Starship are both reusable, so it's fuel and pretty much maintenance repair kind of costs.
So just to put that in perspective for everybody, Tom Brady makes on average $25 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
He could easily just like have the inclination to pay for a rocket trip.
Take a rocket to his away games.
Yeah, like if that's not
I can't wait for the first
mind-boggling.
celebrity to do that. Is just like, yeah, I showed up to the Met Gala in a SpaceX rocket.
Right? Like, you can totally see that happening. Like, NBA teams showing up, like the whole team stepping off of a rocket. Like, this is the future we're staring at. Like, Space Jam is becoming real life.
So to put to take that cost and put it in perspective of other rocket launches, one of SpaceX's competitors, ULA, launches a Delta IV rocket, and it costs $350 million to launch it, and it can't even put like half of what Starship's going to be able to put into orbit.
Jeez.
So, yeah. And then, like Chris said, it's just a fraction of what NASA's next rocket is going to do. NASA's launch cost is going to be like over $1 billion per rocket when they get their next generation rocket going. And that puts it close to the same launch cost as like the space shuttle. I think the space shuttle was about $1 billion a launch as well. And then here's Starship's going to do it, put more into orbit for $2 million.
Yeah, because I believe Elon's plan was like to have by like 2024 to have like 250 Starship rockets manufactured and ready to go to Mars.
Yeah.
So that's just we're seeing 2 starships. Just imagine a warehouse of
Yeah.
250 Starship rockets just sitting there ready to launch.
Yeah. I think Elon was definitely overestimating that timeline. I
Oh yeah.
I would not bet a single dollar that they're going to have 250 of these ready by 2024. This year, they're hoping to make it to orbit with this thing.
Mhm.
And if they can do that, that will be a massive step forward. But I don't see them being able to do 250 by 2024.
Do you think the slowdown happens on SpaceX's end or stuff with like the FAA?
Well, I would have said SpaceX's end, but it seems like it's the FAA in some respect now, because they've got the next one ready to almost fly. They've got the engines installed on that one, and they're wanting to fly this month in February. Now we'll see if the FAA approves it or not. I don't know. I'm not sure what the status of that is. But
Are they seeing similar things, like similar headbutts with the FAA in their satellite launches as well?
I haven't heard anything about that. You see, they launch out of Cape Canaveral for all their Falcon 9 launches, and that has been the Space Coast for decades. So they have all of the precautions and hardware in place to keep that safe and everything, and they've been doing it for decades over there. This is in Texas, right on the Texas-Mexican border, the Mexico border, and they have to evacuate a small village every time they want to launch one of these.
Oh, jeez.
And they've actually had several violations of they're fueling up for a test, and then all of a sudden here comes a truck off the beach, or someone makes it through their roadblock. They've had like 2 or 3 incidents where that's happened. So, and with it being a development test, it's definitely expected outcomes of like this. So, so I think that's why the FAA is extra precautious on giving them license to launch these, is because of
I
that.
feel like we're going to see Elon pull a Dana White and just make a SpaceX island and start launching this.
Funny you say that, because
Oh, you know.
they
my gosh.
actually just purchased 2 oil rigs called Phobos and Davos, I believe, which is like in Greek mythology meant like fear and something else, I believe. They had to do, they're the moons of Mars, is why he named them that. They're 2 moons of Mars. And they are retrofitting them to launch these starships off of them. Because, and this might be a good segue to go to the next video, but when they launch, they are going to be so loud that they can break windows miles and miles away. So if they want to launch these rapidly and multiple times a day, they're going to have to do it offshore for long-term stuff.
Jeez. Yeah.
Because it's just not going to be feasible.
So where are these oil rigs? Are they located like?
They are.
I don't
They
even know where
just
they'd be.
brought them into port, I believe, to start working on them. We're not going to
okay,
see
they
launches
pulled
off of them for at least a year or 2.
Okay, I didn't know if these were pre-existing oil rigs that they have purchased. I didn't know if they brought them in to work on them or not. If they were just going to work on them where they were.
No, they brought them closer to shore. I think they're in port or close enough to be worked on.
So where are they working on them out of? Are they doing it out of like Florida or?
I can't remember. I don't know. I don't think it's like off of Cape Canaveral. I think it's somewhere off of like Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana.
The rigs renamed Deimos and Phobos are in port of Brownsville near SpaceX's Starship development facility in Boca Chica, Texas.
Oh, okay. There you go. They're doing it close to here then. Okay.
Says that they bought them from a company called Volaris for $3.5 million each in July.
So, there you go. So, you guys were a little confused on the whole rocket here. I've got one more video I'm gonna show you.
In fact, Elon tweeted that SpaceX is building floating super heavy class spaceports for Mars, Moon, and hypersonic travel around Earth. The fact that he is now coining these as being spaceports is just another Elon move right there.
Yeah, I mean, because he's Babe Ruth calling his shot, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, that's what he is. He's so dead set that it's gonna happen. Like, failure is not an option. Like, he's not even thinking about like whether it's like even possible or not. Like, in his head, all of this is achievable, and it's just a matter of putting the work in. Like, you know, like to him, this is like restoring a classic car. Like, he knows he can do it, and he has the resources to do it. He's just got to put the time and elbow grease in to do it. And like everybody else is just like, no, Moon Man, like this is like crazy stuff, and he's just like, no, yeah, it's whatever. He's so casual about it, it's crazy.
Yeah. And you know what? I think he can do it. I
mean,
100% think that given his amount of resources and enough time, I think he'll do it. I really do.
I mean, I think you can do a lot by having persistence and an endless bank account that you can just like dump money into. You know, eventually, you know, it's like throwing mud at the wall. Eventually, something's gonna stick to it. Like, he can just burn through all of the capital he has, and eventually he'll get to where he's going. You know, I have no doubt about that. It's just gonna be interesting to see how fast and efficient he can be at doing it.
And he's been very, very well known for overestimating timelines, throwing out dates that are just completely unattainable.
You're right.
But generally, when he says something's going to happen, it's not going to happen in the time frame he says it, but it generally happens in terms of his SpaceX stuff. Like, people started out thinking that landing a rocket was impossible. Well, now they do it every other week.
Yeah.
And people still think that this is going to be kind of impossible. Well, I don't know. Their track record says that given enough time, they're going to do this. So, we'll see. So here is an animation of the entire rocket. This is what they're aiming for right here.
Okay.
So what you're seeing there, the second stage is the top part that they're testing now. The lower stage, which is the same size, if not bigger, than the upper stage, is essentially an oversized Falcon 9 booster. So they have that technology down pretty well. So that's the easy part of this rocket. They're testing the hard part right now. I think at the bottom of it, it's going to have around 28 Raptor engines, whereas the upper stage was just, they're testing with 3 right now. So that's what I'm saying. When it takes off, it's going to be loud.
Right.
I will say, the first time they launch one of these things, I want to be somewhere in the vicinity of it.
Yes, 100%.
You wouldn't even have to be that close, apparently, to just feel the rattle in your chest. I assume it's like going to a NASCAR race, but like times 1,000. Like the rattle that you feel in your chest would be incredible.
Exactly. So their Falcon 9 boosters, they land them on a separate landing pad or on a barge out in the ocean. Well, with this, 100% of the time, it's going to come back and land on its own pad that it took off from, because they want it to be able to stack another upper stage Starship on it and launch the same day. So to cut down on their costs and time of bringing those back to the launch pad, they're having it land back where it took off from.
So not to take away from this right now, but we just talked about how this booster is going to have the like ability to like break windows and all that good stuff, and this animation has like a camper and like a car sitting off on the side of the road. So just the idea, like that building that's like behind the landing pad, they better make that with like no windows.
Exactly. And the reason you see cars and stuff out there is because this is animation superimposed on their testing facility down in Boca Chica. But yes.
But yeah, it just makes me laugh.
You ready for the Tesla Jeep to come out? More doors and windows.
That's why with the Tesla truck, they were like, yeah, the windows are bulletproof, and then they ended up like chucking a baseball through.
So here's the other thing that people think, well, is completely untested so far, and that people think could be impossible, is so they can put these into orbit to deliver satellites and payloads and stuff, but to do anything outside of low Earth orbit, this thing's going to have to be refueled before it takes off from Earth. So if you want to go to Mars or the Moon or even some higher orbits, this thing's going to have to be refueled in orbit. To my knowledge, this has not been done, period. So this is a completely on the cutting edge thing that they want to do. So they're going to send multiple starships up into orbit to refuel a single starship to launch it to the Moon or Mars. So they're going to have, I think they said it's roughly 4 or 5 starships that they're going to have to launch per one starship to leave Earth to go to the Moon or Mars. So this is how they're planning on doing it. They're going to, essentially the payload on several of the starships is just going to be extra fuel. They're going to come up to orbit, and then they're going to dock them together and transfer the fuel over to the one that's going to leave Earth.
So basically like refueling a, I don't know if it's a 747, but you know, basically the Army, when you have or in the Air Force, when you have like those big bombers that need refueling,
Yes.
you do kind of a similar method. And then
Exactly.
they're just going to do that in low Earth orbit.
Seems pretty easy, right?
Yeah, I mean the principle is the same, right? You just
Yeah.
So if they
I look
can
for
get
at some point to Elon being like, "We're going to make a gas station in space."
yeah.
do you want regular or petrol or whatever? You want high grade? Like, get out of here, Elon. We got diesel too.
So,
He's already got that roadster up there that can be refueled.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Oh, just send
So-
all the stuff into space.
so yeah. So it's going to be an interesting time the next few years to see if they can pull this off. And
Yep. So
the next Starship to launch is serial number 10, and they are shooting for sometime this month.
really,
Yes. And Elon
pretty
is
quick
already...
turnaround.
Yeah, very, very. So they already have the engines installed on it. It's out there on the pad. They did a cryo test today, so they fuel it up with liquid nitrogen. Make sure it can hold its seals and everything at that temperature. And I think it passed. So the next thing they'll have to do is they do a static fire. So they start all 3 engines for just a few seconds, just to make sure everything's working right on them, that they're good, before they would attempt to launch. So they do that, and then approve it from the FAA, and then they can launch, essentially.
Wow,
So
that's crazy that just like that fast. Like if they've got the rockets, they can just that quickly throw them up into orbit, or like launch them and run their tests, and then just be ready to run the next one like a month or 2 later. It's definitely speaks to not only his tenacity but how serious he is about this. Because I think when I was back in the college days, the idea of like Elon Musk and SpaceX was all like well and good, and it was like, oh, this is a cool thing that he's doing. He's trying to be the new NASA, and now he's like, I can do things way better than NASA ever could, and for cheaper, and it's just absolutely a crazy time to be alive.
Yep.
Jeez.
It's crazy
So-
that one individual has more funding in his back pocket than our whole government does for space exploration. But
Well, it's funny that you bring up billionaires and their rockets, because I think that transitions very well into the second half of our space episode. Jeff Bezos is stepping down as the CEO of Amazon, and is refocusing entirely on his space exploration company, Blue Origin. So now we have 2 guys with nothing but time and money who are going to be essentially going head to head on who can get the space first, who can colonize space first, I guess.
For real.
I believe I can't remember how much Jeff Bezos's rockets or Blue Origin's rockets cost to launch, but I believe at one point, or still now, Jeff Bezos was making more than that in a day. So it was pretty much he was making enough money through Amazon to launch a rocket each day.
oh my god.
Jeez.
So yeah, because it came out to be like he was making like $20-something million hour or less than that, or it was like a ridiculous amount in like an hour.
Jeez, it's crazy.
Which he's stepping down from CEO and going to head executive chair or something like that. So where he'll still have pretty much full control over Amazon, but he won't be making like any of like the day-to-day decisions and just fully focusing on Blue Origin from now until whenever.
Dang.
I mean, because he still owns an 11% stake in Amazon, so he's not
Mhm.
gonna, like you said, he's not gonna be running it. But when you think about 11% of Amazon, like he could probably bankroll Blue Origin like all on his own with that
Yeah.
11%. Like it's the amount of money that these guys have is absolutely mind-boggling. Like, it's inconceivable that any of us would ever see that amount of money in our entire lives, and they're basically playing rockets. They're building expensive space toys and launching them, and when they explode in, South Texas, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, oh well, we'll launch the next one in like a month, that's fine.
Yeah, so to put it in perspective, I looked it up, and according to a BuzzFeed article in July of 2020, he makes it kind of like, it like goes down and down. So in one day, he made 311 million. That's how much he makes per day, approximately.
I think we were saying that like a NASA space launch was like costing like 250 million or something like that. So, or not NASA, the other company you were talking
Yeah,
about.
that ULA. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
350 million. That's what I saw.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, Jeff Bezos is making enough to launch a rocket each day. So, this new space race between what's primarily going to be Blue Origin and SpaceX. I feel sorry for other companies. I don't know how their bankroll is, but these are the two heavyweights of this thing, it seems. It'll be interesting to see, because I have to believe Jeff Bezos is easily outweighing Elon in the capital department. So it'll be interesting if Blue Origin eventually kind of comes out on top on some stuff, which I think they will. But if Elon's ingenuity and like gusto kind of keeps them ahead of Blue Origin, because I mean Jeff Bezos isn't really that outspoken about this whole stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely doesn't have as much gusto as what Elon does. So, from a pure results look at it, it'll be interesting to see who gets the edge as this moves forward.
Yeah, because Blue Origin was started a couple of years before SpaceX. So you can kind of look and see the amount of work they've each done in the same amount of time period, essentially. Blue Origin had a little bit of a head start. It's very, SpaceX is very like the hare, just go, 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 go. And Jeff Bezos' approach to this company is slow and steady. We're not going to be blowing up rockets every other month. We're going to take our time, figure it out in the design phase before we roll something out. Because their only rocket they currently have in use is called New Shepard, and it doesn't even go to orbit. It's a tourism rocket. So it's just going to pretty much do what Starship was doing, launch pretty much straight up, going to take you to space for a couple of minutes, and then you're going to fall right back down, essentially drop off same place. Now this year they're supposed to debut a rocket called New Glenn, which will have payloads in excess of what Falcon Heavy can do, which is SpaceX's biggest operational rocket that's actually doing work for them and bringing in money. So if that debuts this year, it's going to be interesting. It's going to put them not up on par, I'd say, with the capabilities of SpaceX, but put them in the same ballpark. And it'll be a lot closer competition, I think, into this year if they can debut that rocket. So, let's see here. Because Blue Origin and SpaceX have been competing in other realms of space too. Um, so I don't know if you guys know, but SpaceX is currently putting up thousands and thousands of Starlink satellites for worldwide internet. Well,
Yeah.
Amazon and Blue Origin announced not this has been a while back, but they announced that they're going to be doing the same thing. So we're going to have two major companies putting up essentially their own satellites for worldwide internet, which will be interesting.
Yeah. I think is it called Starlink or
Yes.
Spacelink?
Starlink.
Starlink. Starlink has. I saw the report the other day. There's about 10,000 people now that around the world that are using Starlink internet, and it's supposed to get like 100 up, 20 down for a satellite.
Yeah.
Like a satellite connection, that's pretty it's pretty good. Like this is as good as my in the wall cable.
If they fully develop that constellation of satellites, it could obviously be the only true option for a lot of people, because you're out in the wilderness, you're out camping, off the grid. That's your only choice for internet, really. High speed internet.
Yeah.
There's other options out there, but they're just so slow compared to what Starlink's going to offer. And then also, you've got that's also going to, once they get it fast enough, compete with for me exactly. I don't have the option of fiber, so I'm still on cable internet, which is great compared to a lot of people. But if Starlink offers the same speeds, heck yeah, I'm going to give my money to SpaceX over a crappy cable company who keeps raising my prices. I know there's a lot of people that's going to be jumping ship too if they can compete with the same speeds. But then,
Amazon doing the same thing, especially with Amazon's back. They have the AWS. They have their own servers and everything. Like I feel like eventually, if Blue Origin or Amazon comes out on top of anything in the space race, it might be that department of a faster internet, just because they already have like the groundwork over what SpaceX has.
And think about the security that they could offer certain companies too. You literally are creating your own separate internet that does not have to interact with our ground-based internet, except for a couple of points to a ground station. Would be about the only place, So like, you could circumvent, any sort of restrictions or anything that a government could place on you.
That's going to open a whole other can of worms, because think about just companies storing their data on a Amazon server in space, and then if they need to be investigated, like how do you go about getting that information? Like that's just a crazy realm of anything that I thought I would ever be talking about in my lifetime of.
And it's mobile too. You can put this receiver in your car and you can drive someplace and you're still going to have internet. You're not tied down either.
That's great. Especially once they get the whole network up. I was going to say you might have a little spotty of connection.
Currently, you definitely will. Yes.
Yeah. But whenever they have, because I don't know how many satellites they're wanting to put in.
It's tens of thousands.
Yeah.
And it's already the largest
around around the Earth, so
they quickly overtook the largest satellite constellation very quickly after just a handful of launches. I think they've done 17 or 18 launches of about 60 satellites each, and they already have the largest constellation of satellites in orbit by far now.
Oh geez, I didn't realize they were sending up that many satellites in one go. That's crazy.
Yep. So last year they launched 20-some Falcon 9s, and the majority of those were Starlink launches, I believe, just over half. And this year, as a total, they're shooting for 40-some launches, and if not, at least half of those are going to be Starlink launches, if not more. So they're quickly trying to put it together, and I think they're going to open it up to. They're right now in the beta testing phases of it with those 10,000 people. But I think they're wanting to roll it out to certain regions of the United States this year. So if you're listening and you're in the New England states areas or Canada, you probably are going to be offered Starlink internet by the end of this year. So,
Jeez, that
Okay.
boggles the mind that soon you could be
Mhm.
having that level, that quality of internet, and it'd be so new and so different, and kind of like you said, not being like adherent to kind of the companies that we have to go to now to get our internet providers, because internet providers have it feels like they have such a monopoly on things, because you can go to smaller internet providers, but you're not going to get nearly the quality or the speeds that you would get going through like the bigger companies. So for having a direct competition, and especially one that's like launching satellites up into space, like it's crazy to think about.
yeah. Now, you might not get those speeds right out the gate when they offer it because the constellation's not put together yet completely. But they should be offering decently speeds on their internet when it launches.
I would think that they would have to at least be somewhat competitive if they're gonna like start actually offering it to people. Like I could, like a trial phase would be one thing, but if they're gonna like actually start offering like deals and plans to people
Mhm.
through, through Elon's companies or whatever, then like you would think that they would at least be like market ready to some degree. Like maybe not like keeping up like on the fiber level, but like at least competitive in a sense.
They've already said their target customers starting out are going to be people who live in the country in rural areas, that
Mm.
their only options some of them won't have an option for internet. They're targeting those people, but then also the people that currently get satellite internet, but it's crap. So
Yeah,
that's
and
their target audience starting out, they said.
and that definitely seems like the smart move, because I feel like if you tried to roll this out in like a densely populated area, you would probably like be bogging down your system like almost immediately, and especially with something so new that you're still like trying to work the bugs out of, essentially. So like a couple people in a more rural area would be far more realistic than trying to like launch this and like make it available in like New York City.
Mm.
Exactly. So, and that's SpaceX is primarily doing this so they have a consistent influx of income too. They expect this to be multiple billions of dollars of income a year, and that is how they are going to pay to build so many starships and everything. Because
So
according to this article about Blue or Amazon's internet, their satellite internet network, spokesperson for Jeff Bezos' company said it's potential to be $100 billion business opportunity of this internet. And also that they are launching, their plan is to launch roughly 3,200 satellites into low Earth orbit for their net. And it says the Amazon will invest more than $10 billion into Kuiper, Kuiper, however you say that.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
what they're calling their service, Kuiper.
Yes,
Okay.
or that's what they're calling the project. I don't know if that'll be the final name of the I don't know if that'll be like the Starlink, their name of it, or if that's just like Project Kuiper right now.
So ultimately, it seems like the end goal of, or at least like the short-term goal for both Blue Origin and for SpaceX, is to kind of establish their satellite internet as the primary means of funding the rest of their research. Because the question that I kind of had coming into this was, where is the money coming from for like Blue Origin and for SpaceX? Because obviously it's like my best guess would be the two guys with the deepest pockets who founded the companies are the ones who are bankrolling it. But are we talking about bankrolling out of their personal like funds or from other business ventures, because I actually linked you guys an image that kind of shows the like Bezos empire of all of the different like companies that Jeff Bezos is associated with, whether it be through Amazon or through like his own like investment firm. And the list of names on it is extraordinarily impressive, to think of like all of the different areas of capital that he's pulling from in order to fund Blue Origin. And I think Chris actually just kind of like hit it on the head about Amazon donating a bunch of money to Blue Origin in order to get it done. So Amazon is clearly like the primary bankrolling of Blue Origin. But in the sense of Elon, like, I don't think Tesla is making the kind of capital to, bankroll SpaceX. So for somebody who doesn't know, where does Elon's money come from?
I don't know if SpaceX is an open entity.
They are not
selling stock, so I doubt it's coming from that then.
Yeah.
Well, it's not coming from that then. So I really don't know. I'm assuming it's just coming from Elon's interests, like other special vested interests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they have 3 or 4 ways they get money. It started out, Elon, was the founder and put, oh gosh, I think it was, I want to say about $10 million starting out. And that was enough money to, I think, build 3 or 4 Falcon 1s at the time, trying to get a rocket to orbit to then qualify for some NASA contracts. Well, it was, I can't remember if it was their 3rd or 4th launch. Anyway, it was the last launch they had money for. They were going to go bankrupt if this rocket didn't work. And it made it to orbit, and that qualified them for a NASA contract. So NASA gave them a several $100 million contract. And that was the cash flow that they needed to continue. Then Elon eventually got other private investors and stuff. But yeah, you're right, Chris. It's not on the open market. It's a private company. It's not public yet. And I don't think they have any intent of making it public. But they, had private investors back then. They got NASA contracts. Now they do contracts for NASA, taking supplies to the space station, launching satellites and payloads, and now this past year, taking NASA astronauts to the space station. And so that's their cash inflow is that. And then upcoming is Starlink and also commercial flights. So that's another little thing we can touch is this year they are going into the realm of Blue Origin with space tourism. So Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket is strictly for pretty much commercial customers going to the edge of space and back. Well, SpaceX is going to be sending people up on their Falcon 9 to the space station. So this year, it's the 4th quarter of this year, is going to be called the Inspiration 4 mission. And it's some rich dudes wanting to go to space, and they booked seats on a Dragon capsule going to the space station. And they have 2 extra seats on there, so they're taking 4 seats, 2 rich guys, and then there's something for the 3rd seat, but the 4th one is you can go to space yourself. So for the chance to win that seat, you can go to inspiration4.com, and for a $10 donation to St. Jude's, it will put your name in the raffle for that seat to go to space. So maybe we'll throw that in the description of this video. If you want a chance at going to space, you can for $10.
We are not sponsored, so...
Yeah, we're not sponsored. I put my name in that hat, though, so...
Why am I not surprised?
I'm going there right now.
Yeah.
Although, can we like all like as humanity just agree to like whoever wins give it to like a flat earther and send them to space?
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
I feel like it's a wasted trip though.
Yeah.
Because they'll just be like, it was all fake. The rocket never left the Earth. It never left the disk.
It's all simulation.
This tidbit of flat earther jokes is just for you, Dad.
Oh.
He loves this kind of stuff.
I thought that you were going to say that he was a flat earther.
I don't know. He might be.
Uh-oh.
It's hard to tell sometimes when he's joking and when he's being serious. Oh gosh.
So.
All right. Well, I think we're probably going to go ahead and call it here unless anybody has any remaining space thoughts. I think it's incredible that we're in an age where two guys with deep pockets are just like trying to fight their way into space. You know, the original space race was between countries, and it was kind of for, you know, national like accomplishment and trying to, you know, maybe to some degree colonize space or at least advance humanity. But now it just kind of feels like two guys trying to make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And by the way, the countdown for the inspiration for crew selection is in 19 days, 20 days roughly.
Ooh.
So
So
hurry up.
So by the time that this video goes out, it's going to be a lot sooner than 19 days.
A
it's
couple
probably
of
gonna
days
take a
sooner.
week
Yep.
Yeah.
or 2
Throw your
weeks.
money at it, people.
So yeah,
Get on the stick.
$10. Put your name in the hat.
$10. That's all it takes to take a trip to space. And a little bit of luck. All right, everybody. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks for sticking with us and listening to our space episode of the podcast. Remember, as always, do the YouTube thing. Like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Later.
Bye.